Now, the annual Steve Biko lecture is taking place tonight at Unisa in Pretoria. President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering that lecture. And to tell us a little bit more about what to expect, we're now joined from the venue by Steve Biko's son, Nkosinathi Biko. Thanks very much indeed for joining us. Great to talk to you again this week. So tonight is the big night. Your foundation's been running for 20 years, but one of the highlights of your foundation's calendar is this lecture.
Well, Peter, indeed, tonight is the big night in terms of at least the lecture, and we will be having that given in slightly over an hour by the President. We expect a good turnout of activists we call the 70s generation, who were fellow activists alongside Steve Biko. I call them the retirees because they are about ready for retirement around about now. And this is the beginning of a series of activities we will be having, which will take us towards Biko's birthday in December, where we will have a colloquium in King Williamstown with about 200 of them who will be down there for those celebrations. It's also the 50th anniversary of SASO, which was the first unit under the Black Consciousness movement to be established. So it's both a celebration, it's a moment for conversation, and as we call the lecture, a resuscitative moment.
All right, so remind us again why you chose President Cyril Ramaphosa as the person to deliver this lecture this year.
Well, this is not the first time we have chosen a sitting president. It often depends on the theme. As I said earlier, we are also marking the 50th anniversary of SASO. Now, President Cyril Ramaphosa was a member of SASO in his youth, and he has now ascended to be captain of Team SA. And we chose him because as we reflect on the role of SASO and Black Consciousness, it would be interesting to find out from the captain of Team SA what of the teachings from his youth as a member of SASO does he find useful to deal with some of the challenges in his in-tray.
All right, so the importance of this lecture in the calendar, what do you try to get out of these lectures?
Well, what we have is a series of conversation platforms. The lecture is but one of them, which we normally do. The lecture we do around the day on which we mark the death of Biko, which is around September. And the purpose is to reflect on issues that are of interest to the public. And we do know that as he assumed office, President Ramaphosa challenged individuals to avail themselves to be a part of the entrenchment of democracy. Now, it would seem to me that if you make that kind of challenge, you would probably find resourceful the message of Black Consciousness that talks about agency at the level of the individual. And we are interested in establishing if he does make that connection.
So, I'm going to ask you now to perhaps, step into your father's shoes a little bit. And I just wonder if he was able to whisper into President Ramaphosa's ear, what would he be saying to him in 2018?
I think he would say to him that when we talk of national development, we must recognize that the ultimate conduit for change is an engaged citizenry. And I think he would be saying to him that young South Africans have shown themselves, whether it is on campuses, many of them are in fact in boardrooms, many of them are in the field working this country and developing it. We've developed a thick stratum of capable black bureaucrats, business persons and a workforce, and that has to be used as part of taking this country forward, and it has to be empowered accordingly.
All right, and I always ask you this, and a question that you're always getting asked, I suppose, just as a final thought, what would you want us to take away in remembering your father today?
Well, I think he was the ultimate embodiment of the philosophy that he espoused. He was a very good example thereof. Here is a man who died at the age of 30, whose life we celebrate 41 years later. He has been dead for more years than he lived during his lifetime, and we continue to celebrate him. I do wish that as young South Africans we can take a page from that book and avail ourselves to history, for history to work through us.
Mr. Biko, that's where we're going to leave it. Thank you very much indeed, and we wish you the best with the lecture later on.
Thank you very much, Peter. Bye.
Okay, all right. I was speaking there to Steve Biko's eldest son, Nkosinathi Biko, who is the founder of the Steve Biko Foundation. And one of the things that they do, as he was saying, was put on this lecture as a series of dialogues that they do during the course of the year. This year, of course, is going to be delivered by President Cyril Ramaphosa, and in a not too long time from now, I think about an hour. Right, let's come back to other news, and this takes us to Mpumalanga, where police had their hands full today. Angry residents torched a truck on the N4, and police had to use rubber bullets to disperse angry residents outside Belfast Magistrates Court. Residents were up in arms after the magistrate granted two men accused of a racist attack bail. The two are accused of brutally assaulting Godfrey Masuku on Monday. The brutality was actually caught on camera in full view of the police.
Angry residents set alight this truck and blocked the road with another on the N4 between Machadodorp and Belfast. Traffic was affected for hours. They are angry with the outcome of the case. Bruce Botha and Wayne Swart were granted bail of 500 rand after they were accused of brutally assaulting Godfrey Masuku on Monday. Police had to use rubber bullets to calm the situation.
We were supposed not to pen those trucks, but we was very angry too much.
It is clearly evident that a black person in this region is highly condemned and is taken as not a human being. So we are highly disappointed and we are very angry.
The incident was filmed. In the video, police are seen at the scene. The community is disappointed.
We're quite confident that this case has got tangible evidence that we will win it through, in as much as we've won a coffin case.
And we expected the police, the investigation officer, to oppose the bail, but he didn't do that. And that's very disgusting.
The state intended to oppose bail.
We had a problem at which the investigating officer, firstly, was, he was barricaded of him not to go out from home because there were a little bit of protests in Machadodorp this morning. Coming to court, also committee members were so full in the court, and the court was inaccessible. Including the vehicle that he was driving was also damaged.
The victim, Godfrey Masuku, was not present in court. He has since been admitted in hospital with internal injuries. The two suspects are expected back at this court on the 28th of September. Dumela Machogo, SABC News, Belfast.
The Witbank woman accused of killing her businessman husband is out on 3,000 rand bail. The 26-year-old mother of two has been in custody for over a week. This after she handed herself over to police days after fatally wounding her husband.
Itumeleng Makhalimela Maseko is charged with murder. She's alleged to have stabbed her husband, Caswell Maseko, to death. The couple allegedly had a fight on the Saturday of the murder. Makhalimela Maseko was released on bail, but to the displeasure of the Maseko family.
I feel very down. I cannot even comprehend the pain or But what I will say, I put everything in God's hands.
In her affidavit, Nkosinathi Maseko says she was seriously assaulted by her husband on that morning, and she used a knife to distract her husband so that she could get away, as she was fearing for her life. She says when she fled from her home, she didn't know that her husband had died. The family says Maseko was not a violent person.
In front of us, Keswell was a very sweet and gentleman. So for her to be saying that, we don't have any proof of that. If she was abused as she claimed or as she insinuated, it was going to be possible for her just to leave our fellow brother and leave him. And as they were married, they could have divorced.
The case is back at the same court on the 9th of November. Sibongile Mkanimbolweni, SABC News, eMalahleni.